Ever feel like you're doing everything right, tracking food, getting in protein, and working out consistently, but still look skinny fat instead of toned? Yeah, that was me as well for years. I was literally putting in so much effort only to have very mediocre results. It wasn't until I finally decided to hire a coach that I learned there are 3 key phases you need to take your body through over the course of 1 year to finally get the lean, toned, sexy body you've always wanted that lasts. So in today's video, I'm gonna show you what those 3 phases are, how to implement them correctly, and why eating more and working out smarter is actually the way you're finally gonna get your dream body for good. So in order to understand what the right steps are to building the lean, toned, fit body you want to have and really show all the effort that you're putting in, we have to look at why is it that most women who are putting in the work are not getting the results. The first huge mistake is that most women are only ever trying to cut, only ever trying to diet, only ever trying to lose fat, lose weight. Now, taking fat off your body is part of the equation for you to get the lean, toned, sexy, feminine look that you want to have, but it's not only about losing fat. Actually, the tone, the definition, the firmness, the shape is going to come way more from you adding more muscle mass onto your body. You need more muscle tissue to give you that firm, tight, defined look. And yes, you also need to take fat off. You need to be relatively lean. But if you only ever try to take fat off and you are never doing what's required to also add on muscle tissue, then yeah, the fat can come off, you can get smaller, but underneath there's nothing to show. So that's why you end up feeling soft, flabby, mushy, and shapeless, classic skinny fat body instead of toned, defined, sexy, shapely in all the right places. So for example, this is exactly the mistake I was making for years in my fitness journey. I was working out all the time. I was tracking my food. I was getting in plenty of protein, pushing hard in the gym. And I mean, I looked okay. It's not like I looked super overweight or anything like that. But I thought for how much effort I was putting in, I really should look more toned, more defined, more snatched, especially in my legs and booty. Well, like I said, I got so fed up of trying to figure this all out on my own that I finally decided to hire a one-to-one coach who had the exact transformation that I also wanted to have. And that's when I learned that you cannot just be in a cut 24/7. What I was doing before hiring this coach was always trying to lose fat, always trying to cut, and only ever eating around 16 to 1700 calories a day, which for somebody who worked out 6 days a week was really not that much. So finally, by working with this one-to-one coach, I realized that in order to get the physique that I really wanted to have, I was going to have to add more muscle tissue onto my body. And the way that I was going to achieve that was actually spending the vast majority of my time outside of a calorie deficit. I needed to be eating at maintenance or even slightly above in order to be giving my body the resources, the actual raw building materials to create a new tissue on my body that wasn't there right now. Because think about it, if you're always cutting calories, if you're always in a deficit of energy, you cannot create something new. You can only take off your body, but if there's nothing to show underneath, that's why you still don't have any definition. Okay, the other big mistake that is stopping women from getting the lean, toned, hot, fit body they want to have despite trying really hard is thinking that they can follow just one calorie target, one set of macros, and that is going to be enough for them to completely have a jaw-dropping transformation. Again, I also used to make this mistake. I would just set my calories at 1600 or 1700 and I would just stay there literally all year for several years in a row. And when you understand how your body actually puts on muscle and loses fat, you realize this makes no freaking sense. Because in order for you to be adding muscle on, you need to be increasing your maintenance level calories bit by bit, if not going slightly above your maintenance. And in order for you to eventually take off a significant amount of fat, you need to be bringing your body into a deficit of calories, and you need to be continually dropping that as you move throughout your deficit. And then once you're done your deficit, you need to bring your calories back up once again to be able to maintain what you achieved at a higher maintenance level of calories. So therefore, it does not make any sense at all to think that just one calorie target, just one set of macros is going to take you from this sort of skinny fat soft look to having the sexy snatch body of your dreams. You're going to need to change your nutrition targets several times throughout your journey. So if we zoom out and we look at going through the 3 phases I'm going to break down over the course of 1 year, you're looking at changing your macros most likely anywhere from 15 to up to 30 times, okay? So in 1 year, that is a lot of changes to your nutrition protocols, not just picking a random calorie target and staying there all year and then wondering why you don't have this drastic transformation. And again, I get it because I used to make the mistake too, so no judgment, but it's good that you learn why it's not working. So for example, this is our client Hannah, who is 54 years old, only 5 feet tall, and this is the transformation she has gotten working with us one-to-one in our online coaching program over the last 8 months. So Hannah was already working out consistently, already eating healthy, but obviously she had just kind of the classic skinny fat, flabby body, and she wanted to make it toned, snatched, strong, and defined. She wanted to obviously look like the work she was putting in. So when she came into the program, she was eating around 1,700 calories a day. So what we first did was brought her calories up bit by bit, all the way to 2,300 calories a day. And then in this period of time, she was already looking better, already looking more lean, more toned. But then after bringing her calories up, we went more into the fat loss phase where we did bring her calories down. And now she's back down to 1,700 calories a day, but she's lost almost 10 pounds, eating the same amount as she was when she started the program. But more importantly than just the weight on the scale is that she obviously looks so much better. Her waist is super snatched. She has this awesome hourglass shape going on, and you can see she's built some obvious sexy tone definition, which you can really see in her back shot here. So that has been 11 macro changes just in the course of 8 months for Hannah, and she has a totally new body for it. So by the time we get to the end of 1 year, it's very likely she's going to be at least 15 macro changes, if not even more. Okay, and the third big mistake most women are making, which is resulting in them not getting the tone look they want despite trying really hard, is thinking that it's only their nutrition that's the problem and it has nothing to do with their workouts, that their training is perfect because they are consistent with exercising all of the time. Unfortunately, this is not how it works. It is a huge misconception to think that the vast majority of your results comes from nutrition only, and that it's only a small percentage that is coming from exercise. This is actually perpetuated in the fitness industry, but the reason why is because people are usually talking about weight loss. And yes, when it comes to just losing weight, getting a smaller body, but not necessarily a toned, firm, strong body, then yes, it's really creating the calorie deficit, which is primarily going to be driven by your nutrition. But I know you don't want just to have a smaller but skinny fat body. You want to have a toned, sexy, firm, defined body. And that means you need to be adding more muscle onto your body, not just losing weight, not just losing body fat. So since we're talking about losing fat and adding muscle, this is where your training, your workouts matters just as much as your nutrition. In fact, one fuels the other. The way you eat is going to determine how you train, and how you train is going to determine how you eat. Because here's the thing, if you want to build muscle, you cannot eat your way to more muscle, right? If you just ate food and did absolutely nothing, no muscle would grow. So then that makes us ask, well, what is it that's actually causing the muscle growth? It happens as a result of the stimulus you put on your muscles. The kind of force, the exertion that you are putting on your muscles is what is causing them to grow. Now, obviously that has to be paired with the adequate amount of food, the adequate ratios of food. So this is where your nutrition also matters, but it's really a chicken or egg question. You need both together in order for this to work. So for example, if you work out consistently, but you really don't look like you work out, I can pretty much guarantee your workouts are not as good as they need to be. It doesn't mean that you need to be working out more or for longer, but it means the quality of what you're doing needs to seriously improve. And the main areas usually that women are slacking on and why they are not seeing results even though they're working out consistently is usually just that they do not bring enough effort, enough intensity to the lifting that they are doing. They're doing a set and they're finishing the set like 10 reps shy of what actual failure should be. So real training that is going to push your body hard and actually give your muscles a reason to grow is where you push yourself as hard as you can, where you leave nothing in the tank, you push your muscles to the absolute max, and you actually get really close to the point of true failure. That is when your muscles are going to grow. So for example, this is one of the main things that we do inside of our online program is actually reviewing our clients' form, because it's such an important part of you getting the tone look that you want, is making sure that your training intensity, your training execution is actually good. So this is one of my newest clients, Whitney, who's 63 years old. Amazing. I love that she is so dedicated to still getting strong and building as much muscle as possible at this age. And this was the first deadlift video she sent me when she started training with me. And here's the thing, she had actually come from another coach who is actually a bikini bodybuilding coach. And when she sent me this video, I was like, oh my God, your last coach clearly did not work with you on your training, because her actual form is okay, but you can see that she's lifting pretty lightweight and she finishes the set without being anywhere close to truly pushing herself. So I pointed that out. I was like, girl, we got to get you going way heavier than this and really struggling to finish the set. That is what is going to build the muscle. So literally just 1 week later, because I had given her that feedback, this is the way she's deadlifting now. She almost doubled the amount of weight she's lifting in just 1 week, which I promise you, so many of you ladies watching are just not pushing yourselves hard enough. You're not trying to lift heavier weight. You've got yourself convinced that you are unable to do so, but really you actually do have the capability, and that is what's going to make the difference for you. Okay, so coming back to the 3 phases, how does this fit into the 1 year timeline that you can expect to go from sort of soft, shapeless, and flabby like I was to actually looking defined, sexy, tight, toned, firm? How are we going to get from one to the other? Well, you have probably heard of bulking and cutting before, and essentially the reason that pro bodybuilders do that is because bulking is where you eat a higher amount of food so that you're going to gain as much muscle as you possibly can, versus cutting is where you eat less food, you go into a calorie deficit, so you're going to lose as much fat as you possibly can. Because we know you need to lose fat, but you also need to add more muscle onto your body, but they do require different strategies, because if you are trying to cut as much fat as you possibly can, you're not going to be able to also be adding on as much muscle as possible. So you gotta dedicate yourself to one phase or the other and know when and how to move through them. So my method of doing this is, instead of bulking in the more traditional sense, I do reverse dieting. So reverse dieting is where you are slowly adding in more food bit by bit. And the reason we do that is because as you get consistent with an intake, your body slowly starts to adapt, and then you actually start to burn more calories on autopilot, meaning your metabolism speeds up and you now have a higher level of maintenance calories. So what a reverse diet is doing for you is it's increasing your metabolism, increasing what your maintenance level calories are. But since you're eating more food, you're also able to add more muscle onto your body. And since you're adding more muscle, that's actually in turn, once again, making your metabolism faster, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn 24/7, even doing nothing. And so since your metabolism is faster, and since you're adding on that sexy muscle tone, you already start to look more lean, more toned, more defined. And the thing is, you're also going to be taking off some fat at the same time, simply because you're burning more calories from the muscle you're putting on, the training you're doing, and the fact that your metabolism is faster. So this initial phase, this reverse diet, where we're going to prime your metabolism, make it as efficient as possible, and also add on that muscle and have that first bit of fat loss happen, is usually going to be somewhere between 3 to 4 months. It can be even longer than that, because honestly, so long as you're looking and feeling better and better, there's no reason to stop this. But I find with most clients, it's usually about a 3 to 4 month window. For example, this is my client Kiana, and I took her from this to this over the course of just 4 months. And this was only doing a reverse diet. No cutting whatsoever, but you can see she obviously lost a lot of body fat and she looks so much leaner. Funnily enough, she actually weighs 3 pounds more on the right. She was 129 pounds, but she didn't have any muscle. She obviously had fat. She had more fat than she wanted. And the thing is, fat takes up more space on your body than muscle does, even though they both weigh something. So that's why she weighs more on the right, but she looks so much more leaner because she's now added some muscle onto her frame, but muscle's leaner, it's more compact, it's more tight, smooth, and firm. So that's why she actually looks so much better. And in this case, she went from doing like random 1,200 calorie crash diets to consistently eating 2,100 calories a day in just 4 months to get this transformation. And by the way, she's only 5'1" and was still able to eat all that food for this result. Okay, so after you have done your 3 to 4 months or longer of reverse dieting, you can expect to be looking more lean, more toned, more defined, feeling great, having tons of energy, recovering really well, having great digestion. But you're probably also at a point where you would ideally love to still get a bit leaner, love to actually kind of get shredded and really get as lean as possible, really reveal all the sexy muscle that you've worked hard to build underneath. So then the next phase is where we actually do go into a cut, where we do a fat loss phase, a calorie deficit. Now, it's important to remember, we are only cutting after reverse dieting for 2 main reasons. Number 1, because if you cut but you don't have any muscle underneath, you're never going to be happy with the way you look. You're still going to look kind of flabby and soft because there's no muscle. So that's why we got to make sure we're actually adding muscle onto your frame first and then cut down to really let that muscle show, pop, and be defined. And then the second reason is we want your cut to be as efficient, as smooth, and effective as possible. So if we get your maintenance calories higher, if we get you burning lots of calories every single day, then we don't need to drop your calories so viciously low in a cut in order for you to be in a deficit and to be losing lots of body fat. So generally speaking, people in a cut after doing a good quality reverse diet can expect to lose anywhere from 10 to even as much as 30 pounds. It really just depends, obviously, how much fat you have to lose. But pretty much my goal for any client in a single cut would be to lose around 10 pounds in one go. So for example, this is our client Kate, who's another 49-year-old woman who's only 5'2". And when she started the program, she was working out plenty and eating really healthy, tracking her food, but she still obviously felt sort of flabby and skinny fat, and she didn't know why. Well, she was always trying to cut. She was keeping her calories low. She was only eating 1,600 calories a day. So for her first 4 months, we slowly reversed her up all the way to 2,350 calories a day. And in that period of time, she did lose about 4 pounds on the scale. So that's amazing. She actually was going down in weight, even though we were eating so much more. But more importantly, she got much more toned, much more tight and defined already just in the reverse diet. So then, since her calories were nice and high and she'd obviously put on some muscle, we decided, okay, let's do a short, sweet calorie deficit cutting phase just so we can get extra lean, extra shredded, and really show all the muscle underneath. So then we moved into a cut just for 2 months because you really don't need to cut for too long when you do these things correctly. So we took her from 2,350 down to 1,900 calories at her absolute lowest, which means at the very end of her cut, she was still eating more than when she started the program. And in her cut, she dropped 9 pounds like clockwork over the course of 2 months, no problem. And now it's been a couple of months since she has finished her deficit. So now she's into phase 3, which is her post-cut reverse diet. So once you finish your cut, you need to be able to exit your deficit and do it in a smart way so that you're going to reestablish your maintenance calories at a higher intake without gaining back the weight that you worked hard to lose in the cut. So now we have slowly worked her food back up to 2,300 calories a day, and she's actually lost another pound, totaling 10 pounds down just in the cut itself and 14 pounds down since she started the program 8 months ago. And you can see overall in her weight loss trend graph here that she's very easily maintaining this new low weight, even though we have once again increased her food up to 2,300 calories a day. Again, this is a nearly 50-year-old woman who's only 5'2", maintaining these results on 2,300 calories a day. Wouldn't you love to experience that too? All right, fam, so that is how it works. We need to initially reverse diet, then do a short, sweet cut, and then have your post-cut reverse diet once again. And that's gonna look like 3 to 4 months usually of the first reverse diet, then maybe 2 to 3 months in your cut. And then your post-cut reverse can go on for several months. I mean, it can go up to like 6 months, even as much as a year. Because honestly, once you do get lean and toned enough, you don't need to keep going back to fat loss phases because you're already lean enough. So you might as well just be actually staying lean at a higher calorie intake and working on slowly adding more muscle onto your body. And then maybe about once every year, you can do a bit of a short cutting phase just to get a little extra shredded, perhaps in time for summer, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. The vast majority of the time, about 75% of the year, I am outside of a cut working on muscle gain while I stay lean. And then I spend about 2 months or so taking off some weight, getting extra shredded so that I can feel really in tip-top shape for bikini season for summer before I go back to muscle building once again. So if all of this sounds amazing and you would love to do this, but you're just tired of trying to guess and wonder how to do on your own, you always feel unsure if you're doing things right, and you've been trying for so hard for so long and you just see very, very little results, that's exactly why we have our online one-to-one program where we take you through everything, hold your hand the whole way, guide and support you, customize every single step, give you lots of ongoing feedback, support, detailed customization so that you can finally get the sexy, fit, toned body of your dreams and maintain it for good while eating plenty of food. So if that sounds amazing to you, then click on the link in the description, fill in an application. We'd love to chat with you and see if you'd be a good fit for our one-to-one coaching. All right, fam, thanks so much for checking out this video. And next, I want you to go watch this one here where I'm gonna talk even more about reverse dieting versus cutting and how this is the key to finally getting the fit, toned body of your dreams and maintaining it with ease. So I'll see you in that video.